Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm super excited to be talking about the next set. That's right, Crimson Haze, which will be part of our next set. Not the next one that we'll be releasing in like a week or so, but the one after that, which is Twilight Masquerade featuring Ogerpon. I looked at those, I think, 2 days ago, maybe yesterday, I think 2 days ago, and they're really cool. The Teal Mask Ogerpon EX accelerates to itself and draws cards. The fire one is bad. The water one is really unique. It's kind of situational and pretty cool. And then the fighting one's like absurdly good. It walls every Pokemon in the game with an ability, which are, quite frankly, most of the Pokemon. So yeah, but let's just hop into the current cards, the new or the new cards, the current new cards, which are going to be from Crimson Haze, which might have Hydrapple, but not in Crimson Haze. Oh, we got some cool full arts. Got this Assyrian Growlithe, which looks fine. I'm not actually a big fan of these art styles, but they're pretty cool. This Eevee, this Greninja, actually, this is pretty cool. The card looks weird because it's like a picture of a card, but or a picture of a rendering of a card, but it's still pretty cool. Very colorful. It actually looks almost muted, but I think the card itself will look really colorful and vibrant. And then we have, oh, which is fighting as well. We'll talk about the card. And then, who is this? Perrin. Yes, Perrin. Um, Lovely. Anyway, that card's not very good. I will be talking about all the cards, or at least all the noteworthy cards, including ones I've talked about before, but I won't be spending as much time on them. I did a poll on my channel as of recording this. It's literally 50-50 whether you want me to talk about cards I have talked about already or not. But I understand that some of you have not seen my other videos or the other videos covering these, and so I want to cover them. And also subscribe if you haven't seen the other videos. Subscribe if you're new to my channel. I'm going to be covering more new cards and play in Temporal Forces as well, as that is dropping in under a week now. So I'm excited for that. But first we have Tangrowth takes 30 less, but for Grass Colorless does 150, 10 less for each damage counter on it. It's not quite good enough as it doesn't one-shot Charizard. I mean, that's really the thing you're looking at here. You can pay it with reversal, and there are things to do to get it to work. It does 4 retreat as well, which just obviously isn't good. There are, I guess it can be used to preserve energy, but let's be honest, this card is not very good, unfortunately. Not good enough. Next up, we have Pinscher. I've talked about this one. You discard all energy from this. Okay, oh, so this is useful for the Boomerang energy card I talked about yesterday. But yeah, and then at the end of your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon will be knocked out. So it's like a delayed instant KO or something, which is kind of cool. I don't know if this is actually good or not, but it's at the very least pretty interesting. Obviously, if you can trap him in the active and you can kind of like buy some time, it could be really useful, but I don't think it's quite good enough. We have Ariados. I literally just talked about this one like 2 days ago, so I'm not going to talk about this one too much, but it increases your opponent's active evolution Pokemon's retreat cost by one card list, and then it does more for the retreat cost. Its attack's pretty underwhelming. Again, doesn't KO Charizard like at all. It can two-shot it, but probably not what you're looking for. But it can be used to trap stuff like Bibarel in the active, and it's pretty decent for that. Next, we have Leafeon, which says you can attach a basic grass energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon, and if you did, heal all damage from that Pokemon. Now, this is really interesting. It's fully healing a Pokemon. I think the main combo slash idea here is going to be with that Torterra EX deck, which will be coming before this as soon as rotation hits. And so I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know if it's quite good enough or really good enough at all, but it's an interesting concept. Torterra does do more damage for grass Pokemon in play. Eevee is obviously not grass. Leafeon is, but Eevee isn't. You can then, there's like an Eevee that can kind of skip evolution, but it's not great. So it is what it is. Iron Leaves. I think I talked about this one. It's not that good, and it's okay. I guess it does one-shot Charizard if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn for Grass Colorless, though, so that could be a decent use. This could be like the new Tropius, and oh wait, no, it doesn't one-shot Charizard. Never mind, I thought it was 80 more. No, yeah, this doesn't seem quite good enough. Pretty close to one-shotting Charizard, though, so if you can get an extra 10 from Sableye, it could be useful. But keep in mind, you can't snipe Charizard EX on the bench with bench damage. You can with damage counters, but you can't snipe it with Radiant Greninja to finish it off. Poltergeist is immune to bench damage, but it does have 30 HP. So it still won't be surviving too much. Also, what is that? Oh, is that this? What is that? It looks like a hockey stick. Anyways, Sinestro EX. I kind of forget this. This is a new one. It says Infusion Retribution. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. Put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon for each basic grass energy in your discard pile. Then shuffle those energy back into your deck. This is really interesting. Actually, I saw these cards. I looked at them before recording this, but it's really interesting because this is an effect that obviously recovers energy, and you can pair it with the new Ogre Pond, the grass one. I have no idea what the names of those are. It's like uh, yeah, I don't remember. I'm not going to try to remember that right now. But yeah, that is potentially pretty good. It is doing damage counters, not damage, which is probably better, as it can't really be walled by too much. It can be walled by Relor, but can't be walled by Manaphy, can't be walled by Jirachi because it's an evolution as well. Then you have Matcha Splash, 120 for 2 colorless, or for grass colorless, heal 30 from each of your Pokemon. I mean, the healing is okay, but you have really low HP, so it's for a stage 1, for a Pokemon that gives up 2 prizes. So, you're not great. But I think the first deck's okay with that grass Ogre Pond because you're just burning through energy in that deck, I guess, but not exactly. I don't think it's too good in most cases, though. Next up, Vulpix, Ninetales isn't particularly good. Slugma, one of my favorite Pokemon, and Magcargo. Magcargo isn't particularly good either. There are certain combos you can use to make it work, but they're not great, and I've talked about it before as well. Torkoal, not particularly good. Infernape, really sick. This is a pseudo reprint of Dragonite from Soaring Storm. It's obviously different types, being you can accelerate a fire and fighting energy from your hand to your Pokemon and play in any way you like, which is really cool. You can do 200 for fire colorless. And I don't hate this card. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Dragonite. I mean, it was a bit of a menace to the format. But yeah, I think this card's pretty fun, but I'm probably not quite good enough. Next up, we have Chi-Yu, and so it says Ground Melt. First of all, you have a lure to draw to, which is okay. I mean, it's interesting and certain things which I'll talk about later, not in today's video, but in the future. Also, I love Chi-Yu as a Pokemon. I think it's definitely my favorite fish. But Ground Melt, 60 for Fire Colorless. If a stadium's in play, this does 60 more. Discard that stadium. Unfortunately, 120 isn't quite enough, especially looking at like the other Chi, which does 140 if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn. But obviously the idea is like, oh, Magma Basin is in play and you like discard it. Or I think the one thing I like about this, and I'll talk about that later, because there's another Pokemon. I think there's, of the 4, I think only Chi-Yu and then Ting-Lu are getting cards. I could actually be wrong though. Let me scroll through. I know someone was like said I scrolled too much. I'm sorry. Oh wait, no, yeah, sorry. There's only one set. For some reason, I thought Crimson Haze was 2. Like there were 2 sets, but no, it's just one. There's a Ting-Lu that we'll talk about though with a similar-ish attack. Anyways, where is that Pokemon? Chi-Yu. So 120, it's like okay. I think I really like that you can play Artizone or some other stadium that helps you, and then you discard it. So your opponent doesn't get that value, which is interesting. It's much better than Lost Vacuuming it because Lost Vacuum's an important resource potentially and a card that you want to. I mean, it's a card that is good. It does require you to lost on a card from your hand, which usually isn't what you're really looking to do. It's not terrible. It's a loss on a card from your hand as it can thin, but I mean, I don't know. And then, yeah, Chi-Yu just is, I like that aspect, but its attack's not super good. Corphish, Crowdon, I mean, has this card ever gotten a good card? No, this one doesn't look very good either. Not terrible, but 180 for 3 is whatever. I mean, it's good, right? There are ways to power this up, but there are better options. Next up, we have Glaceon, Deep Chill for water colorless, 30, and at the end of your opponent's next turn, put 90 damage, or sorry, put 9 damage counters on the defending Pokemon, which is equal to 90 damage, but it is damage counters. It's essentially 120 for 1 water on a stage 1, but it's not actually, right, if they just switch out, and even if it was, it wouldn't be broken. You're not hitting weakness on the damage counters, so it's not quite good enough. Fion, you can recover a supporter, can punish your opponent for energy. It's a fun little tech Pokemon. Talked about it before, but nothing insane. And then we have Froakie with a bad version of with water duplicates at home, as some may say. Water duplicates was a classic attack on Frogadier, but this is on Froakie. So search check for 2 Froakie and put them onto your bench. Yeah, that's not that good. But then we do have Frogadier, which is also not that good. But then Never mind. I forgot. Greninja EX is fighting. I talked about that earlier. It is later. So then we have Cramorant for 3 colorless. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. Snipe 120 to one of your opponent's benched. I talked about it. I think it could be good in Lost Zone. 120 Snipe is obviously pretty good, but there's also Sableye, right? And then also there's the other Cramorant, which just hits the active, which sometimes is honestly just as good as the bench. Sorry, that is where you want to be aiming your damage, and it's literally for free, assuming you have at least 4 cards in the Lost Zone. So yeah, I think there is use cases of this, and I talked about it in the past as well. Walking Wake. I mean, I might have talked about this in the past. I think it's ancient. It does essentially 180. You damage yourself a bunch, but it's not that good. Zapdos is also not that good. It can do actually no 190 for lightning colors is not bad. I didn't realize how much it did. This is pretty interesting. Just pretty straightforward, good damage. You do discard all energy from this Pokemon. Yo, it's me. It's 10 types. No, I assume it's like 10 volt or 10,000 volt. Anyway, so this is interesting. Hitting obviously pretty good damage. 190 is not quite enough. You're looking to hit 220, but luckily you'd play this in presumably Miraidon, and Miraidon plays Regieleki VMAX, and Regieleki VMAX will give you 30 more damage. Now that deck isn't super good, but it's certainly not terrible. And yeah, I think this could be a nice little addition to the deck because it will be hitting very solid damage for a single prize round. All you do is just fighting, which is actually super nice because fighting's not that good, but being able to resist it as opposed to the rest of your deck being weak to it is pretty nice. Helioptile, Heliolisk, not very good. Morpeko, I think I talked about this. You can play in GLC, it's pretty good there. That's about it. It's actually pretty good in GLC, but it's not so good in standard. Belly Bolt, again, not particularly good. Iron Thorn GX, pretty interesting. I honestly forgot this was in the set. If it's in the active Pokemon with a rule box in play, except for future Pokemon so you can boost this with Iron Crown EX, I believe, is the Pokemon. But aside from that, it turns off all other rule box abilities if it's in the active, but obviously it won't be in the active all the time. And if it's in the active, it is most likely the only Pokemon that can attack outside of like Alakazam EX, which this does more damage than. So yeah, we've seen cards like this. Obviously, it's kind of like Path to the Peak, which is probably certainly top 30 cards of all time, I think. It's very good. It's very good right now. Probably the best card in Standard, or the most impactful, I guess. Something kind of like Nest Ball is like really good, or Ultra Ball, but like, those are different. But yeah, so this is like that. It's like Path to the Peak, but this is a Pokemon that needs to be in the active, and its attacks pretty mediocre. 140 for 3, and you can power it up, and it does move energy, and it does some stuff, but it'll be good within its own deck, and it'll be very good within that deck, but outside of like future box without your own hands and maybe some other stuff, it won't be very good. Girafarig and no Girafarige. What it seems like the beginning and end should be pronounced the same, and then for a giraffe, both. Girafarig is pretty bad. For giraffe is mid. It has an attack called mid rumble, and that's exactly what it is. Beyblade, Float, and Florges. This is kind of interesting. Once during your turn, you can flip a coin for each Florges. So if you have multiple, you can use this multiple times. If heads switch in one of your opponent's bench to the active, the new active is now confused. If this looks familiar, it's like I think there's a card that gusts like this, but it's like Jinx from Lost Origin, which has this as an attack, but it's not a coin flip, and that's pretty good, but not amazing. It doesn't see much play right now. I think it's actually a little underrated, but honestly, I haven't played it much either. At least not recently. I played it in the past, and it's interesting, but I mean, it's just it's a stage 2 and it's random. So we have Enamorus. This is wacky love resonance. If you sorry, it does 80 base. It doesn't say it does 80 base. That's kind of confused. But it does 80 base. If you have a Pokemon of the same type as one of your opponent's Pokemon in play, it does 120 more. So that's 200, which is pretty good. Not insane, but like good Xatu Ditto Box style card. And then from here, you do need a Pokemon of the same type as one of your opponents, though. You can technically run like Kecleon's rotating, and that'd be a pretty terrible idea, anyways. But I certainly think it's pretty possible. Pokemon like Manaphy and Jirachi and Rotom V and Lumineon V and stuff are played a bunch. So you can kind of try to get value there. I think it'll probably work like half the time, so it's not a bad card. But you do need to include a bunch of different types of Pokemon in your deck to get value out of this, but that's very doable. It's not that insane if you do get it though, but I think in like Zadu box it could be played. Screamtail is bad. It's not completely trash, but it can support a lock turn one and going first. Oh no, sorry, turn one going second, which is like good that turn, but like that yeah, it's obviously not good the rest of the time. Next, we have a Hisuian Growlithe, Hisuian Arcanine. This one's kind of interesting. Proud Fangs for free if your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them. Does 90 more. This is actually really good. The big issue is obviously it's not a ton of damage, but it's very easy to get damage on your bench. I think this is pretty decent. Fighting is a pretty mediocre type to be hitting right now, which is surprising to say. It's been really good for a while. It's not bad, but um, its weakness, that weakness has been really good. It's not terrible, but nothing amazing. I don't think it's quite good enough. But as a tech, it could be okay. I don't know what you tech it into though. Next up, we have Nose Pass. Yo, it's Nose Pass. And then we have Probo Pass. I think I talked about this one. It's not very good. Except though we have Greninja EX, which is kind of broken, but we're going to need to talk about it a little. And first of all, it's fighting, which, as I said, I guess it's a better type to be hitting than water. For weakness, I guess it's switch types with Garchomp as well, which is kind of fun. Actually, that's probably what they did on purpose. Garchomp is a water type, but obviously it's like a fighting type in the normally, or it can be dragon, but it's normally fighting. And then Greninja is normally water, but and would be water in this case, but is now instead fighting. So that's kind of fun that they switch types on us, and they're two obviously very iconic Pokemon, really cool Pokemon. I love both of them as well. They're both stage 2s and pretty fun, and they're actually very similar, except Greninja is better. So yeah, Garchomp was kind of mid, but Greninja EX Ninja Blade. When 70 for one water, you may search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So obviously the really good thing here is really good damage for one energy on a stage 2. So you can heal this or like recover it back into your hand with something like Professor Terra's Scenario. But then you have this other attack. Well, one, it also doesn't, or two, I guess. It doesn't search for a card, it does search for a card, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. It does search for a card, so there's like a lot of stuff going on here. Some pretty good stuff. Like searching for one card is nice, but you can just get Iono'd, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. Your HP is also only 310. I think this is pretty good. And then let's look at the second attack here. Duplicates Barrage. Watercolors colors. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Does 120 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And yeah, so that's pretty decent. It's not insane. I think this is actually like the same as Garchomp. But yeah, it is cool how they switch types as well. That's pretty fun. I definitely think that I guess Garchomp would normally be weak to grass, but anyway, I think this is a really, really fun little Pokemon here that is good. I don't think its first attack is broken, but I think it's pretty good. Second attack, oh no, sorry, it does 120 to 2-year punch Pokemon. I do not know how I misread it. I read it earlier. I was like, oh, that's good. So this is good damage output. It's like Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. It is a stage 2 and more awkward to power up because you don't really want to be using double turbo. You can, but you don't really want to. It's pretty hard to power up. There are ways to power it up, but none are great. I honestly don't know what you'd use. This is almost, I mean, its attack and damage is directly better than Radiant Greninja, which is a good, but it is a basic Pokemon as well, with a really good draw ability. The second attack is good, but not broken. We've seen it on Urshifu, and it was good, but not broken there. And then it is obviously a stage 2, it is worse. And so I think both attacks are pretty good, not broken, but pretty good. Once you get it set up, it's really good. You cannot search with the Irida because it is not water, but you can search the basics out and stage 1s if you're playing that. But yeah, pretty interesting card here. Not broken, but not terrible. Halucia. Did I talk about this? I don't think I did. So it does 140 for 2 fighting if you're down on prizes. So this is pretty decent. I mean, 140 is good for 2 energy on a basic. We've seen this on Shiyu, and that's pretty good. It's not great because fire is not great, but it's a good Pokemon. And I definitely think there is gonna, like we saw Tropius 120 for 2 on a basic, which does is because of its weakness, but it's good, and then Hawlucha is also good. Fighting's not super good though. Ting-Lu next we have, and this is the other one that discards a Stadium here. So ground crack, if a stadium is in play for one fighting, well, you do have decent HP, you have a second attack, but if a stadium is in play, this attack does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, then discard that stadium. Oh, yeah, sorry, it does 30 to each of their bench Pokemon, but it will do 30 to their active always. It doesn't say that here, but yeah, that's pretty nice, obviously. 30 to all is pretty good. Um, I'm trying to think about this, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it's good damage. This actually is a combination of, what's Ting-Lu, right? Where there's Ting-Lu EX the card, and then there's Hitmonlee, which does 10 to each and swings to the bench. And then you can send up Ting-Lu to ability lock essentially all your opponent's Pokemon that aren't EXs. So that kind of is a fun little combo. Again, this is where you'd play that Artizone down, and then once your opponent, like they'd want to use that zone, but you discard it, and so they can't use it, and that's pretty fun. It can be either player stadium, so that's pretty nice. Will remove your opponent's stadium, and you do have to discard the stadium as well. I think this card's pretty good. You obviously need a good chunk of stadiums, but that's not too awkward. I mean, I think 6 is 6 enough. I guess you might play like 8 because you kind of want to survive some hits. But it's a little awkward to play with that many stadiums, but you could do like Forage and 4 Pokestop or some stadiums that get you some value. And I think the attack's pretty decent. Not insane. I don't know if it's quite enough, but we do have Radiant Alakazam to kind of move damage around. There was that new one of like the trio that the 2 are monkeys and the one's not a monkey. Or wait, is the one a bear? I don't know. Anyways, there's the one that like moves damage from your Pokemon to your opponents, and that could be useful here. You could run Geeptra Bog as well, or some other stadium that damages you. Next we have Applin. This is like, it's cool in GLC, I guess, because now you can run Flapple and Appleton in Dragon, but yeah, Diplin is not too good, Eevee is not too good, and Snorlax is also not too good. But wait a second, what is this attack? Attach an energy card from your, I think this is mistranslated. Attach an energy card from your hand to this Pokemon. If you attach energy in this way, heal all 60 damage from this Pokemon. I think it means just 60. I think they copied it from the one that said heal all, but it's just heal 60. Yeah, its other attack isn't very good either. You have Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. This card's like broken. It's Radiant Charizard. Its ability is the same as Radiant Charizard. And then, well, okay, it doesn't work with TMs, but its attack's cheaper. Attacks cost is the same as Radiant Charizard, except it's a colorless instead of a fire. It does 10 less, and the attack effect is the same, but you have 260 HP, which is a lot, and it's all colorless, so you can literally use this in like any deck. It's kind of broken. Unfair Stamp is also kind of broken. I haven't talked about this card much, but it's really good. If one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, each player shuffles their hand into their deck. You draw 5, your opponent draws 2. That's pretty nasty to have to deal with. And more importantly, it can bail you out of bad situations. You do need, obviously, like a bench Pokemon, but I think it's a really powerful card and one that will definitely see a lot of play as an ace spec because it is good in general scenarios. The only other, yeah, this one's not good in general scenarios. So the only other good one that can like bail you out of bad hands kinda is Master Ball, but that doesn't really do it. Unfair Stamp doesn't do it either completely, not to the same level that Computer Search did, but it's still pretty good. And it's also like, no, where is it? Lucian? I have no idea who this is. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. If either player does this, then each player flips a coin. If heads, that player draws 6. If tails, they draw 3. This is hilarious. It's either Roxanne for you or Roxanne for your opponent, or like Iono at different points. It's just so janky. It's really funny. I mean, I don't think it's very good, but you can use it to high roll and like win, I guess. I don't know. Actually, it's not. Roxanne's 2 for your opponent. But anyway, yeah, this is a card. It's certainly a card. Now let's go back here. Enhanced Hammer, discard a special idea from one of your opponent's Pokemon. A reprint. Pretty sick. It is a reprint, but it's going to be good. Not as good as it was in the past, but will be good. Hyper Aroma. Search your deck for up to 3 Stage 1 Pokemon. This is an Ace spec as well, so you can have 1 Ace spec in your deck, like on Fair Stamp. So you search for 3 Stage 1s, reveal and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Obviously, this is good if you are like a very Stage 1 focused deck, potentially like Zadu or something, but it's pretty niche. I think like really, really niche. And to be in a position where you have a bunch of basics and not a lot of stage 1 or like no stage 1s in play, but be a stage 1 focused deck, I think it's way too specific unless there's some specific combo here that would be like, oh, if you have a bunch of stage 1s in your hand, you do big damage. Switch. it's back. Pokemon Catcher, it's back. Love Ball, I talked about. It's kind of bad. It's not back. It's bad. Survival Cast, I talked about. It says if you would be knocked out, it's an A-spec tool. If you would be knocked out, you live, which is really useful. But your HP goes down to 10, and then you discard it. I think it's pretty good in a lot of scenarios, unless your opponent lost vacuums it, and then it's not as good. Lucky Helmet, it's back. Caretaker, draw 2, and then if Community Center, a stadium's in play, shuffle into your deck. That's obviously not good. Draw 3 isn't particularly good. Draw 2 is worse. And then Perrin, I'll talk about Community Center in a minute, but Perrin, reel up to 2 Pokemon from your hand, shuffle them into your deck, then search for up to that many Pokemon, or reel and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. It's like Pokemon Communication, but that was item search. This is not, because it's not an item. So another bad supporter. There are a lot of bad cards from the set. Outside of like the A specs, which are good, an Enhanced Hammer. Lana's Assistance. I think I talked about this one like yesterday or something. Put up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon that don't have rule boxes and basic energy from you just go into your hand. I mean, it's good. It's a pseudo reprint of Clara. They're not as good as Clara, but I mean, there are certainly times when you play this if you want it, but it's nothing insane. It's certainly a decent one, but nothing insane. I think I talked about Boomerang Energy in last video. And then we have Community Center, which during each player's turn. And this is a stadium, by the way. And also, there are some full arts that I'll show off in just a minute, because I don't care too much about them. But Community Center here, trainer, and a stadium. Once during each player's turn, if that player already played a supporter, they may heal 10 from each of their Pokemon. Part of the reason this is being printed is definitely because of the Champions Festival, which is it's a stadium that is similar. It's a little worse, essentially directly worse, but it is really hard. It's really expensive to get. So if you ever wanted it, then this is better, and you'll play that, I guess. It's kind of interesting, but obviously it's not a ton of healing. It's not a lot. It's only 30, or sorry, it's only 10. I've seen 30 a lot of times, 20 sometimes. And yeah, playing it with the Caretaker, this just isn't good. And then Boomerang Energy I talked about. It doesn't get discarded, or it goes back, or it stays on if it's discarded. Some full arts. I really love this Infernape. Infernape looks super cool. Applin. This is actually pretty cool. I like that. Rip Applin. Rip this Applin on the bottom. It isn't going too well for that one. And then there's another parent. Oh, that's just like the full art, and then the what's this altar? I don't know. Greninja looks cool, and that's about it. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell. I guess people do that, so do that. It's useful. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.